Well, the Mets are off to a hot start in 2025. Joining me now is our Mets expert, Gabrielle Raucci. Gab, good to see you again, and I know you must be so excited.
Yes, it's been an exciting 2 weeks of baseball so far. The Mets are playing extremely well, and I think there's a lot to talk about.
Well, let's hope they keep going for the rest of this season. Let's start with their pitching, which has been unbelievable so far. And specifically, Mets fans are excited to see a healthy Kodai Senga, who's fully healthy, living up to the hype, and off to a really hot start, even though it was an up and down series against the Athletics.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially coming off of a seven scoreless outing yesterday, he pitched. Ironically, in his three starts this season so far, he's pitched 77 pitches. So 77-7. I know pitchers are creatures of habits, and we're all superstitious when it comes to baseball. So that was an interesting tidbit there. But for him to essentially, coming off of this slow ramp up with spring training to go and push seven and be scoreless nonetheless is something really promising for Senga. Um, and not for nothing, he's demonstrating ace level stuff. I mean, we haven't seen this kind of outing, especially with injury and all of that, considering. But for him to come off of such a slow, kind of rocky first inning, I'm gonna say that in a nice way here. The first inning for Kodai Senga, the past three starts for him have not been great. They haven't been on par with what we know him to be. But for him to be kind of, really locating and finding things well and keeping his velo up, he's constantly walking around, making sure his mechanics are right. He's a perfectionist. So for him to have an outing like he did, extremely promising for him. I believe he flashed all seven of his pitches yesterday, which is big as well. Um, but not for nothing, right? I mean, this Mets pitching staff, especially Senga with his outing yesterday, they've seen, if it's not getting them on a whiff, it's more or less grounding out. So the ground ball rate for this, I want to say I looked at it this morning, maybe 50% the ground ball rate for this pitching staff, and especially with this elite defense behind them. I'm going to shout out Brett Beatty here. I know we're going to talk about him in a little bit, but for Kodai Senga to kind of maybe dial it back in those jams where maybe he's got to throw like a two ball or something, and for the defense to step up, especially turning double plays, 5-4-3 double plays nonetheless with Beatty in the hot corner yesterday. Really getting him out of those jams for him to be able to go the distance and really continue to work on getting back up to that 2023 200 plus strikeout Kodai Senga ace level stuff that we've seen and we're hoping to see for 2025.
Likewise. So, speaking of hot starts, maybe having to wait for Pete Alonso wasn't such a bad thing because as of now, he's showing he was worth that wait. He's been hitting for power, but he's also got the average going for him despite going 0 for 4 yesterday.
Yeah, Pete Alonso has been, I mean, for somebody who just loves the Mets and for all of the things that they stand for Pete to have gone and test free agency and for him to come back to the Mets. And not only that, I mean, with him, Lindor, and Soto at the front end of this lineup, for the three of them to be on base machines on top of just general expected power from all of them. One thing I've seen from Pete that a lot of Mets people, if you will, are talking about are this kind of refined plate appearances. He's got this ramped up, really dialed in like plate discipline um, that he's really not he's not chasing those low and away breaking ball pitches that we've seen him get out on in recent years, where let's say people who think hitting 30 plus home runs is considered a slump or an off year. But we have seen him chase, and in those times that maybe he had, I don't want to say not gotten on base, but not really working counts as deep as he's been in the most recent of years. He's really showcasing. I mean, a 2019, his rookie season when he broke that rookie home run record. Every single, I think he hit a home run in his first 10 games, if I'm not mistaken there. Um, but really, he's on track to surpass the Darryl Strawberry Mets all time home run record. And I was listening to a podcast this morning. I think it's the Mets official podcast, the Meet at the Apple. They were talking about the influence that Juan Soto must have had on Pete Alonso. Juan Soto was the big fish this offseason for the Mets, uh, supplemental to Pete Alonso, of course. But that kind of refined plate discipline, the ability to work deep counts and to really get on base, whether it's a walk or, if it's an extra base hit, you know, home runs aside, because we've already know that that's been locked down for Pete for years. Um, the influence that Juan Soto, who is a just really incredible, I mean, he could replace the ABS system they were using in spring training, right? He sees pitches and he works counts like no other. Um, it's obviously influenced Pete. And I think it's influenced a lot of guys in this lineup. I mean, this is a guy that they're talking to every single day. And not for nothing, Juan Soto, the topic of the offseason was who's going to protect him in the lineup. And Pete Alonso is surpassing all expectations, and he's really driving Soto in. It's kind of the opposite, I guess, effect here. Pete Alonso looks like Juan Soto in the box, and that kind of intelligence and approach to things in the batter's box and being a little bit smarter and waiting for the pitches that you want to drive. It's interesting to see. I think it's made Pete really step into, I think, what the expectation for his free agency was, but going forward. So, right, a lot of people, there was a lot of talk about Pete Alonso not being, or not necessarily performing to what he was supposedly seeking in free agency. But with these first 2 weeks of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if he had multiple offers, and for the opportunity for him to opt out or even seek the kind of contract that he'd been looking for in this offseason. He has been incredible to watch. And it is just, for somebody who truly loves baseball and all of those kinds of romanticized, behind the scenes, intangible things, he is just such an incredible representation of what it means to be a Mets fan. And it's awesome to see him have such a hot start.
And Gab, final question. You brought him up before. One of the big question marks of the team has been Brett Baty. A lot of people are saying he's going to get sent down once Jeff McNeil comes back from his injury. He's been trying for years now to stay consistent with this team. Do you think at this point he's relegated to a guy who fills in for injured regulars, or is he going to have a significant role with the Mets down the road? What should they do with him?
I I've written articles about it. You know what I mean? I am a Brett Baty truther. I I want him to succeed. He is such a hard-working player. He's got so many great natural abilities, and he works so hard. So for Brett Baty, things might not be connecting right now, but even in those post-game scrums with Carlos Mendoza, the manager, all they're talking about is, he's gonna work through it. He's constantly working on it. Things aren't connecting right now. Maybe it's not coming into fruition. There are a lot of things that come into the game of baseball. It's extremely hard. So for him, I mean, as much as I want Brett Baty to succeed on the Mets, maybe it's not necessarily in the cards, but as the kind of saying goes, once you leave the Mets, right, you go on to win a World Series if they're not going to win it this year. But Brett Baty is the kind of player that I think, especially having he hit a triple yesterday, and for him to make that kind of connection, especially with the slump that he might be experiencing at the time, whatever is currently going on with that. I think it's more or less a consistency thing. Maybe he's not seeing pitches as well. Maybe he's nervous. It doesn't help when you're at Citi Field, your home field, and the fans are booing you. So that, I think, right, number one, have a huge problem with that. So all of you that have been booing Brett Baty, I have a problem with you here. Um, but if he's not going to have that kind of breakout season with the Mets, you could only hope that he has it for a different team. But I do think that there's a spot for Brett Baty here. I think that him, especially coupled with Vientos, I don't think it's a bad matchup. I don't know if platoon third base is in the cards for the Mets. They've got tons of prospects that are coming up that, yeah, you need to water the garden a little bit with the guys you've already got. But Brett Baty's a homegrown guy as well. So for them to put the work in and to hang on to him and to really see it through with him, I think is the right thing for the Mets to do. He's just, he's got all the tools, and it's a matter of just bringing it above that triple A level to consistency in a major league park. So I do hope that, especially, they're going to face a last place team, the Minnesota Twins, this upcoming 3 game stint. I really hope that him having that confidence with making those incredible double plays in the hot corner yesterday against the A's, and as well as making that contact and getting not only an extra base hit out of it, but doing so in with the magnifying glass on him. I hope that that kind of lights a fire in him, and I'm looking forward to see what he does next. Honestly, if it's not with the Mets, Brett Beatty's a phenomenal baseball player, and I do hope that it works out for him in Queens.
And he is a hard worker. Gab Raucci, thanks so much for coming on, and let's go Mets.
Thank you. Let's go Mets.